Hi everyone, Graham Cook here from RJH Training Centre in Manchester. Just doing a quick video on your further training after your CBT. If you want to go for your full licence, it could be various of an AM, A1, A2 and A, which is your direct access. Now let me just explain that a little bit. If you're going for your AM license, it's only the same process of doing a module 1 and a module 2 test at a designated test area. Now it doesn't mean to say that you're going to come with RJH, but various schools across the country do exactly the same as what we do. And I'm just giving you a little bit of a rough idea of what is involved, especially with your module 1. Now, as I said to you before, the AM test is on a 50cc scooter. Now this is for anybody. I mean, you could actually do this at 16-year-old, but it is the same test apart from the emergency stop and the avoidance, which instead of doing that at 31 or 50 kilometers as they say, you will do that at 19 mile an hour at 30 kilometers. So just a little bit different, especially for a 50cc. An A1 license is at 17, and this is where it's a 125cc only. Now you could either do that on a scooter or you could do that on a geared bike, 125. It is the same test as I said before, and the avoidance would be up to 50 kilometers or above. Now A1, you would be restricted to a 125. If you did it on a scooter, 125 scooter, then you'd be got another restriction to a scooter only. People doing an A2, that is where it is another age difference of 19-year-old to 24, and that is up to a 395cc or 47 brake horsepower. Bikes we use at RJH are, for especially the A2, is a Honda CB500F, which is already down to 47 brake horsepower, even though it's a 500cc. We don't have to put a restriction on that. We can actually put restrictions on bikes, which we do on a Kawasaki Z650. We have actually got a restriction kit. Now if you do have a restriction kit, the ATB has got to notify the DVSA test centres with a certificate, and they've got to physically see that certificate. We can actually give them a copy, so it's got that on record at the test centres for whenever we take the bike back to test in the future. A license, and this is like unrestricted now, is the age is 24 and above. Now we have 650s, and you know, you could actually get a 750 as well and use that for your training bikes. So once you've actually passed your A license, then it's unlimited. You can go out then and buy whatever bike you want, and it is the same test as all the others. If you do an A2 license at 19, After the 2-year period is up, once you've passed, so the date of your test, 2 years after that, you could do a progression upgrade to an A. So you don't really have to wait till you are 24. You have got to have held your A2 license for 2 years and 1 day, and you could actually do the mod 1 and mod 2 test again at the age of 21, and you wouldn't need any documents, only your card part of your license. Now on your module 1 test, this is where we need different certificates before you can go for your module 1 and your module 2. So you must hold a CBT certificate. You must also hold a motorcycle theory certificate. Now this motorcycle theory certificate is valid for 2 years. The CBT is valid for 2 years. You must have the originals. A copy is not good enough. So you must present at test your originals and keep those safe, as well as your card part of your license. Now I'm going to talk about the module 1, because I said to you before, it can go on various ages and various bikes, but it's still the same test. Here at RJH, when you come to do your direct access or your A2, A1, AM, we ask you to bring all your documentation. So on your first day of your training, we would like to see your CBT certificate, original, your theory certificate, original, and your card part of your license. We will check them just to make sure they are as it should be, filled in correctly. And then what we ask you to do is we have a disclaimer. All we want you to do is to read it, tick any box relevant, fill in your name and address, emergency contact numbers, and your email address. What this is a rider training record. So what it basically is we, after every session, we fill in what you've actually done on the day. So the next time you come in, we can, as an instructor, we can have a look at your progress. The other form there is your background information. So again, put your name, contact number. Now when you're doing your direct access, we can come up with courses for you, because a lot of people say, well, how much is it going to cost, how long is it going to take? Well, it's up to every individual. Now we do various courses, the fast track course as we call it, the advanced course, intermediate course, and a beginner's course. So again, depends on your ability and your riding careers. Have you been on a bike for a long time? Have you rode big bikes? Do you do off-road? Do you do scrambling bikes? Do you do racing round tracks? Various things are different. Riding experience then, so we put a couple of ticks in these boxes where it could be CBT only, it could be CB just for up to 1 year or over 2 years. You might have just done your CBT renewal with us. The other thing is we just have a look at your license. So is it a full license, provisional license? Which site we're going to be training. RJH have got various sites around the northwest, so obviously we're just going to tick a box where the actual training is taking place. Forward training dates, so in other words, if you've got another sessions, and also your provisional test date. So when you do go through the booking system, we can actually book you in on with your availability, and we can offer you sort of tests for module 1, module 2, so we can provisionally book that for you as long as you have got your theory certificate. We need this theory certificate so we can book your test. We also put your driving license number down, date of birth, date your CBT certificate was issued, also your training school. So basically what happens is we do get people coming from different training schools that have just done a CBT but they want to do the full license with us. So we then just put which training school they was at prior to their training, and obviously the date of the theory that was passed, so that we know roughly when the 2 years is up. So again, some people do the theory but leave it for 12 months before they start doing the training, so at least we've got chance to have a look on when their theory actually runs out. So that is one of the pages that we fill in. Various schools across the UK probably do something different, but this is what we do at RJH. Then we have a column there for your Mod 1 training. So we do score this each time that you're in, so we put the date on the top, and we do score it like 1 is introduced, 2 development needed, so you're not quite at test standard, so probably a little bit more training, and 3 is test standard. So everybody likes to see a nice 3 in that column prior to going to test. If we think you are not ready for test, we can offer you more training, and you know, we have got that. We know what test standard is at test. We would not take you if we didn't think you would pass that test. So all our pupils, when they do go to test, they are at test standard. Okay, so that is your training records. Further on is like your Mod 2 training as well, so a little bit more on scoring. So about the test then. So this test lasts for, you'll have a 15-minute slot at test. Now basically it is off-road test. So every exercise, you would not be on the road, but there is various exercises you must do. Now we're looking at 5 slow speed exercises, and the other 3 would be, we class as the higher speed, so we use the second gear. But you are on a test area at the test centre, and it is multi-purpose. So when you do go to any test centre in the UK, they are exactly the same. They are in a fenced area. The only difference is at different test centres, the gates are in a different position. Here at RJH, on the morning of your test, you would come to the training school and you would bring all your documents with you. Your instructor would check the documents just to make sure there aren't copies. They are the originals, and making sure that you've got the right documentation to go to test. We offer the facility of taking your documents for you. In other words, we put your documents so which it will be a CBT certificate, theory certificate, and your card part of your license, and we will put those in a folder and put them in a locked top box on the actual bike and take them to test for you. At this point we would radio you up, so either with a radio, or what a lot of instructors are doing recently, especially at RJH, is we've turned to Bluetooth like the test centres. So we would fit you with a radio or Bluetooth unit so that we can communicate to you en route to test. Once we get to test, we would have to take that off you, show you where the waiting room is, toilet facilities, what have you, and you would wait for your name to be called. At the same time, our instructors would make sure we've got the documents with us just to present to the examiner. Now, when you do get called at the test centre, you would have to fill in, this is your rider report, test report, and you would just have to sign your name in the top box. It's got to match up with your driving licence signature, so always make sure that you sign in that top box on the green line with your signature. Now the test itself, I'm going to go through the test. Now the test itself, as I said to you, is 15 minutes long. It can be done in 10 minutes. There is no time scale on this, so if you did go over the 15 minutes, do not worry. You won't be penalised. Just do it at your own pace. Okay? Now, as I said, the area is going to be something like that. Okay, so the area itself is the size roughly of a football pitch. Top quality tarmac, no grids, it is just tarmac. The actual drainage is down one side, so it's just got a slight slope to one side. Okay, now as I said to you, various exercises. So the moment you get on your bike, so in other words, once you've signed that piece of paper, the examiner will ask you to put your helmet and gloves on and lead him to your bike. When he gets to the bike, he will check the bike over, make sure the tyres are okay, make sure there's no leaks or anything on the bike, and he will take the registration number of the bike. He will ask you to sit onto the bike, start it up, but don't move. Now, the moment you get on your test is the moment you get onto your bike, is the moment you are on test. The first thing that you're going to be doing once he tells you, because what he's going to do there, he's going to walk towards the gate and open it, and do not move away until he tells you to. He will want you to ride, he will already have told you to ride through the gate, come to a stop. The first exercise is just moving away, which is making sure that you do the observations. Now, observations are part of this test. All they're looking for is for you to two lifesavers before moving away. Left shoulder, right shoulder. So in other words, move your head to your left shoulder, so chin to shoulder. Move your head towards your right, chin to shoulder. That's what they're looking at. Every time you move away on this exercise, they are looking for the observations. Now on this particular test, we have only got 5 minor or rider faults, so we call them. One serious fault is a fail, one dangerous fault, putting yourself at danger or the examiner at danger, would be terminated and the test would end at that point. Now I'm going to go through these rider faults with you and the serious faults. Okay, I'm going to go through the actual test. So first of all, once you've gone through the gate, once you've stopped, you could put it into neutral just to free your fingers off that clutch if you want to. It's not a problem. He will then show you where your first exercise would be. Once he shut the gate, he will just say, okay, there's 4 green cones there and there's another 4 there. They're parking bays. He will ask you to go into one of the parking bays. Now, various schools train from the left to the right, right to the left. Here at RJH, we always like you to ride into the right bay and then come to a stop. We find it's easier for the pupil to do your first exercise, which is a manual handling. Now, various exercises have got faults. This fault here, first of all, if you don't do your observations before setting off, so that could be a fault. When you ride into the bay, right or left, you've got to make sure your bike is within the 4 green cones. If it's stuck out, you've created a fault. Now these are faults that you don't really want. And this is where all your training comes in. Once you've come to a stop in that bay, idea is to put it into neutral, switch the engine off, put the side stand down, make sure it's fully forward before getting off the bike, because what you don't want is that side stand to kick back up and you drop the bike. One drop of the bike at any point on this test is a fail. It is terminated at that point. It's as if it is dangerous and you're not in control of the bike. Once you've got off the bike, just stand and wait for the examiner to rejoin you. If the gates are all the way up here, it'll take him a while just to walk down there. But there again, could be some schools or some training centres where the gates are along this wall here, or this fence here. So it could well be that he's waiting for you. He will get one of these sheets out. So again, it's a right circuit, left circuit. You will only do one of them. Okay, so he'll get one of these sheets out and ready for that particular test. Okay, so what he's going to ask you to do is he's going to say to you, there's another parking bay over there. He's asking you to do a manual handling by reversing that bike into that bay. How you do it: lift the bike up, kick the side stand up, put it upright position, keep the bike upright position. Before moving away, observations. Again, left shoulder, right shoulder. Move the bike around, and you need to be into that bay without having it sticking out, without hitting a cone. If you hit a cone, that is a serious fault. Any cone that's hit on this circuit is a serious fault. Now, it doesn't matter how many times you go backwards and forwards, as long as you get it in there, into that bay, reversed in. If you have to stop the bike and have to take it forward just to reposition, then don't forget your observations. The bike has stopped. Every time the bike has stopped, we need to see that observation. Once the bike's in that bay, fully in, not stuck out, put the side stand down, step back. At this point, he'll either ask you to sit on the bike, don't start it up, or he will stand at the side of you, show you this sheet, and he will just say to you, this is your next exercise, which is number 2 and number 3. Slalom, where the yellow cones are, figure of 8. Now, slalom figure of 8. So what you're basically going to be doing is going through these cones, and he's going to show you on the sheet. He's also going to point out to you, there's your 5 yellow cones, there is your 2 blue cones. So once you get to the blue cones, you are then into the figure of 8. Remember, serious faults on this is putting your foot down, hitting a cone. So you cannot put your foot down, weight bearing as they call it. As you set off, first gear only, good clutch control. This is where they're looking to see if you've got control of the bike at slower speeds. So into the slalom, into the figure of 8. Don't go too wide, otherwise you will create a fault. Now, we have done a video on our YouTube channel in RJH of this, and we recommend that you come round and in between that last yellow cone and the blue cone and coming in. Okay, now if you feel that you're going to hit that yellow cone, don't turn into it and try dropping the bike or putting your foot down. Just go round it. There's no fault there, but the fault is if you went round the second one, that becomes a serious fault. Not got the control of the bike. Remember, your slow speed exercise, your coordination, is all to do with your throttle control, clutch control, and a rear brake. Doesn't necessarily mean to say the brake's right on. It might be just sort of touching it with your foot, and it's the control of this bike. Throttle control, clutch control, and rear brake. What you usually do is 2 figure of 8s, but do not come out of this exercise until the examiner shouts you. So if he's using this side, the examiner is probably stood here where my finger is, just watching you. Once you have completed 2.5 figure of 8s, he is just going to shout your name, and he would just say, okay, I want you now to come out of the figure 8, use as much space as you need. So in other words, you can use as much space as you need, bring the bike round, and he wants you to stop just there, ready for your next exercise. If, for instance, you drop the bike on any part of this test, the examiner will probably pick the bike up and ask the instructor to come onto the pad just to move the bike away, make sure the bike is okay. The examiner would take the pupil into the classroom, or into the debrief room should we say, and just to make sure you are okay, check a few details. Once you bring the bike round here, you come to a stop there. You've just done 3 exercises. The next exercise from there is number 4, but we go in a straight line to down to the blue cones. There's 4 blue cones there. This exercise, as he will say, is to ride slow speed towards the blue cones as if you was in traffic. Okay, so this particular exercise, the examiner will walk behind you. He's looking to make sure that you have got control of this bike in a straight line. So for instance, now this is a little bit of exaggeration, if you went over there and come back in again, that is not a straight line, that is a serious fault. Your rider faults are observations. So you can see now we are thinking, how many observations have we done so far? We don't want to get any more than 5 faults. You get 6 faults and you have failed your test. So you're looking for the minimum. So these particular faults of observations are not necessary. You should get a clean sheet with observations. He's going to walk behind you. So remember, throttle control, clutch control, rear brake. So he will be watching for that rear brake light on. You will ride around about 3-4 mile an hour. This is where the examiner is walking behind you. If you go too fast, 5-6 mile an hour, you will get a rider fault. You've gone too fast, too quick. Okay? Down to the blue cones, come to a stop. As I said to you before, just treat one exercise at a time. So once you've finished that exercise, you could easily put it into neutral and let him have a chat with you next time. Now at this point, he's not going to get the sheet out. There's 2 white lines then. So if you're using that side, great. If you're using that side, great. So he's either going to be using this side or that side. Now it's only down to this avoidance. So you're either going to be doing a left avoidance or a right avoidance. So this is later on in the test. So we'll stick to the test at this moment in time. U-turn then. He will want you, and he will explain to you, he wants you to do a U-turn within the 2 white lines. So in between them. Once you've done the U-turn, you just come to a stop. This is slow speed again at your throttle control, clutch control, rear brake. Now, observations, crucial. Lifesavers, 2 lifesavers before setting off. So left shoulder, right shoulder. As you bring the bike along, before you commit yourself to turn, you need to do a right lifesaver, head back forward, so split it, and then turn your head where you want the bike to go. Okay. Faults. Observation faults. If your wheel touches the white line, then you will get a rider fault. If you go over the white line and he can see daylight between the white line and your tyre, that is a serious fault. If you turn the bike and put your right foot down, weight bearing, because the bike's going to go over maybe, then you will get a serious fault. You get a serious fault if you don't do a right lifesaver before turning. Now various schools do different U-turns. We do, it's like you call a moving exercise, U-turn. That's the way we teach. Some schools, they'll set off, observations, and they'll come to a stop. They'll do a right lifesaver and then set off by just turning the bike round. Doesn't matter, either one is acceptable. Once you've done the U-turn, come to a stop before the end of the white line, and the examiner will come over to you. Now at this point he'll want you to put it into neutral. He's going to have a chat with you now for your next exercise. So your next exercise is down to cornering and a controlled stop. This is where we class this as more of a higher speed. So in other words, instead of using just first gear only, we now can use second gear. Some schools use third gear as well. At RJH, we just recommend that we just use second gear. So you'll get this sheet out again. It will show you the direction of going all the way around there, coming through here. The speed trap is there, coming through, and he'll show you the 4 blue cones there. The controlled stop, he wants you to stop the bike with the front wheel in the middle of the 4 blue cones. If you stop the bike and the front wheel is past the blue cones, the 4 blue cones, or just outside the box, that is a rider fault. Sorry, that is a serious fault. If you stop the bike before it, that is a serious fault because you have not done a controlled stop within the 4 blue cones. So the front wheel has got to stop in the middle of the 4 blue cones. Okay, this speed is not being measured. It is not being measured. So ideally, I class this as a practice lap or a sight lap, just to make sure that you know which way you're going, ready for your emergency stop and your avoidance. Now you must go through in between the blue and the red. The red, you can't go over past it because that is your boundary, but you've actually got to go through the gap of here. Now if you're going through onto that one, if you're going through onto the left side, then obviously you are over the other side and you go across and round that way and then just come through all here. Again, it's not being measured, it is a controlled stop. If you look at your speedo at that first red cone, you should be doing it roughly around about 25-30 mile an hour, nothing more. Once you've gone through the speed trap, you can start rolling off your accelerator, start braking and slow down, come to a stop. Now what you don't want to be doing is coming along and then slamming on your brakes just to come to a stop. It is a controlled stop, not being measured, so ease off once you've gone past the speed trap. Not being measured, remember. Once you've done that, he will ask you then to turn the bike around. Ignore the white lines, just come to a stop before the yellow cones here. If you was on this side, he might just ask you to turn the bike around, come to a stop there, or even over there. Remember, ignore the white lines, you've already done a U-turn, so before you set off, even though he's just told you to turn it round and park over there, he's still looking for that observation every time you move away. So, lifesavers. Turn the bike round, come to a stop, put it into neutral. At this point, he's going to show you this sheet again. He's also going to tell you it is the emergency stop, and he wants you to come to a stop as quickly and as safely as possible. Bikes at RJH have all got ABS on, anti-lock braking systems. It does help. Various schools in the UK might not have the facility for the ABS. So again, just have a look at those as well. He's also going to stand at the side of you. I don't think he'll stand in front of you. He'll want you to put it into neutral anyway, first off. And he will just put his hand up and he will just say, that is my signal. He'll also say, do you understand? If you're not understanding this, please, please, please ask him again. Remember, it is your test. Remember, it is your time. Yeah, so do not worry. This emergency stop is done at speed. He wants you to come through this speed trap 50 kilometers or above. So that's the key figure that you're looking for, 50 kilometers. You're looking around about 31, 32, 33 mile an hour. First red cones there, you should be able to look at your speedo. If you've got there at 32, 33 mile an hour, just hold the throttle, look at him. Don't be looking at anything else but him. He will be stood down here. So as you've gone through that speed trap, his hand is going to come up and you're going to come to a stop as quickly and as safely as possible. So it's your reaction off your accelerator, front brake, back brake. Remember, front before back. 70-30 in the dry, 50-50 in the wet. Remember, the tarmac has got good grip. Remember, you've got ABS. You are going to come to a stop as quickly, as safely as possible, and you should be coming to a stop roughly about there. If you stopped nearer to the blue cones too far, one, you could get a rider fault, stopping too far. If you've gone a little bit too much as well, a little bit further, then it could be terminated because you've not stopped quick enough and you've put yourself in danger or the examiner at danger. So it could be terminated if you stopped well down here. Okay. If you came through here and it's recorded at 47 kilometers or below, then you would be able to do that exercise again. He'll ask you to turn the bike around and go and do it again because you haven't made the required speed. If he says that to you, ask him what speed, because if you said 47 kilometers, you know for a fact you just need to tweak it a little bit more, a little bit faster. Okay, coming round this corner in here, you're probably looking about 18-20 mile an hour. So getting it up to speed to 32 isn't much more. And come to a stop. Observations setting off. There's your rider fault as well. Alright, if you come through at 47 or below and you come through on your first attempt, you will get a rider fault. If you come through at 47 and below on the second attempt, then the test is just finished, terminated, because you can't reach the required speed on the emergency stop. He's not going to let you do the avoidance, so the test would be a fail. If you come through at 48, 49 kilometers, you will get a rider fault because you've not met the 50 kilometers. So in other words, you've got a little bit of a tolerance. He will come to you and say, you will not have to do that exercise again. I want you now to turn the bike around. Bring the bike round, come back to a stop there. Observations on setting off. Remember, do not hit any cones. By the way, he'll have moved 2 of those cones and just put 2 together there. So instead of 4 blue cones there, he will have put back to 2. You'll get the sheet out again. This is the avoidance. Basically, it's as if a car door opens. You're going to do this at the same speed, so you've still got to meet the required speed of 50 kilometers or above. Again, we use second gear because it's fantastic engine braking in second gear. Looking at this, come round through the speed trap, and then you've got to go in between these 2 blue cones there. If you're on that side, it's the 2 blue cones there. So it's the blue cones there. So you're only going to do either that side or that side. Either or. He'll show you the sheet again. He'll also point out these two blue cones, the ones that you got to come through, and he'll also say to you, there's two blue cones here, he wants you to come to a stop in the middle of the two blue cones. If you stop at the side of them, that is a serious fault. You have got to stop in the middle of these two blue cones with your front wheel. Observations as you set off, up into second gear, round this corner in, increase your speed, really look at your speedo at that first blue red cones there, you don't look at it again. Once you've gone through the speed trap, you started to lean a bit as well. Once you've gone through that speed trap, you can knock off your accelerator. Because you're in second gear, you've come off your accelerator, engine braking. Fantastic. Look at the outer blue cone, because if you look at the blue one on the inside, good chances are you'll kick it. I always say to my pupils, make sure your feet are tucked in. If they're tucked out like a penguin, as I call it, penguin feet, good chances are they'll kick one of those blue cones. Come through here, 50 kilometres. Once you've gone through the speed trap, you can roll off your accelerator through there. Once you've gone through the blue cones, head then towards these two blue cones by using your front brake, back brake. Come to a stop. Okay. Faults, hitting a cone, obviously. Observations, setting off, that's a rider fault. If you come through at 47 or below kilometres, you have got a second chance. So once you come to a stop there, the examiner's going to be stood here watching you, and if it comes through at 47 or below, he will ask you to turn the bike around and go and do it again. 48, 49 kilometres, you will get a rider fault because you've not met the speed. 50 kilometres or above, no faults. Once you've done that, he's then going to ask you then to turn the bike around, head towards the gate, come to a stop. Remember, you are not off test till you get off the bike. Okay? So he'll want you to ride towards the gate and then wait there. Observations, turn the bike around or head towards the gate and then just come to a stop. Once you're stopped at the gate, he will get there and he will open the gate. He will then want you to park in a parking bay which is just outside the gate. Now there is parking bays and they're all in line. There's white lines there for your parking bays, designated spots. Doesn't matter which one you go in as long as you go in one of them. Observations before setting off again, through the gate, bring the bike to a stop in one of the parking bays. Again, put it into neutral, turn the engine off, side stand down, make sure it's fully forward, off the bike, and then take the key with you. The examiner will ask you to go and wait in the waiting room whilst he fills the paperwork in. Once he comes into the waiting room, he will ask you to come into the debrief room and he will also say, would you like your instructor present on the debrief? That is entirely up to you. We can't say anything, but we always like to listen to the debrief. And he will take you into the debrief room, take your helmet and gloves off, sit you down at a table, face to face, and he will just say to you there, okay, that is the end of your test and I'm pleased to tell you you've passed. If there is any faults, he will explain them. So on that actual sheet there, what you signed in the morning, before your test, you will have scores down there. He's also going to be scoring there on your speed requirements, so he's going to be putting in them boxes your speed requirements, so what you did on your emergency stop or what you did on your avoidance. It's also going to put a tick whether you did a right avoidance or left avoidance. On that sheet as well, the registration number of your bike, CBT certificate number as well. This is what he also fills in, and whether it's a pass or a fail. If it's a pass, well done, and he will then issue you with a Mod 1 certificate. Now this Mod 1 certificate, you need this for your Mod 2. So your Module 1 certificate, you need to keep that safe with all your documentation to take with you for your Module 2, which is your final test. So the actual test, motorbike test, is in 2 parts. Once, this is what you will get. This is what we class as a Mod 1 certificate. Okay. Now this Mod 1 certificate is valid for the period of when your theory runs out. So it runs in line with your theory. So if you only did your theory last week, then it will be that particular date, and you've got 2 years to do your module 2. Now if the theory runs out in a week's time, it will still be on there, but it'll also explain to you that you have got so many days to get your module 2 done. If your theory runs out after you've done your module 1, then you'd have to sit your theory again. You'd also have to do your Mod 1 test again too. Okay, so again, signature on the bottom, that's what he asks for. So once you've got your certificate, he'll put this towards you. You'll still have to sign on the bottom of there. The other thing you've got to do is to sign on the bottom of there. He'll also say, is your health still the same? Just sign it there as well. Okay, and that is really your module 1 test. That is AM test, A1 test, A2 test, and your A, which we classed as the direct access. So same test for your off-road training. Once you've done that, obviously we'll put everything together, put your at RJH, we then put your radio on and head back to test, back to base, which is your training centre. En route back, we usually start doing some module 2 training on the way back, having a look what you like, what we've got to work on, and if you've enjoyed that, and again, if there is any questions on this video, once it is on the YouTube channel, then please comment away. At RJH we do respond to any queries, questions. So anything that I might have missed, I'm hoping I've not, and I'm hoping that it gives you a little bit more of an insight into your training if you're doing your module 1. And yeah, again, fire the questions away. So from me, Graham, at RJH, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.